Let's start with you just growing up, man. You grew up in the Houston area, first generation American, right?
Yeah, well, it depends kind of your customs,
Definition.
how you term that. The people I mostly was around were around. We mostly refer to the generation that emigrated as first generation Americans.
Okay.
And like my folks are immigrants and they are American citizens, so we consider them the first generation Americans. And then
So you
my
would be
siblings
second
and I are
generation
second
then.
generation. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But the first generation born here in the States, right, for your family?
Correct, correct. And so, like, my eldest sister, who was actually born abroad but mostly raised here, moved here as a child, they're kind of nicknamed in our culture, at least, the 1.5 generation.
Right. Okay. And so what's it like growing up in the Houston area for you?
It was a mix of things. Like, I grew up in Spring, Texas, which is north of
Yeah.
Houston. Um, but so it had kind of a mix of rural and suburban elements to it. But it was also just a suburb of Houston. It had its own identity and it didn't. And I think when you've got a metroplex as big as Houston, that kind of tends to happen in a lot of places. And I
Yeah.
think there's a little bit of dishonesty when we don't acknowledge kind of that fullness, because I think there are so many people who are from truly small places that are remote, that are not near a big city. And then there are people who are truly just from a suburban area that doesn't have its own kind of rural culture too. And
Hmm.
Spring now, I think, is much more just suburban and kind of sprawling. But when I was, and this is not to be like, like, oh, when I was a kid, things were
Yeah.
different. But I mean, it was decades ago. It was a
Hmm.
long time ago. Um, it was still in transition. There were still a lot of farms around that were being converted to subdivisions.
Yeah.
So, I knew friends who did the old kind of country thing of partying on the edges of farm fields and, with their
Pasture
trucks and
parties.
yeah, that
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then there were kids who went to like electronic dance music clubs. It's like there were kind of both elements of the culture in there. And if you wanted high culture, you can go into Houston easily. And, on the other side of Houston at the Gulf Coast, we went fishing with my dad in Galveston all the time. Like, so it was kind of a mix of a lot of different, I don't know, Texas cultures in one
Yeah, I
setting.
hear that a lot about Houston too, especially the suburban parts of Houston where you can get kind of the both sides, right, the urban and the rural, and it's interesting what happens in a musical sense when that's possible, right? Because I feel like you're open to a lot more, or you're exposed to a lot more genres and styles of music because you're not just out in the country or you're not just in the inner city. You know what I mean?
Right. And like my childhood experience of running around my neighborhood is nothing like the kids who were living inside the loop in
Right.
Houston,
Yep.
like a true city experience. But wasn't it also wasn't as insulated as someplace like, and this is going to be like total Houston people, but like Kingwood or the Woodlands or something where you have all these restrictions on, whether you could have neon signs
Yep.
or, it wasn't that insulated either. So we definitely had, we had shootings at my school. It was a kind of an in between place.
Yeah. See, I grew up in inner city Massachusetts, so and I grew up. My parents were heavily into country music, but boy, I'll tell you what, that's not something I'm openly playing on my speakers in my car. You know what I'm saying? It's not happening. I'm not jamming to Garth Brooks going down, through the projects at all. Ever.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I was just having a conversation with somebody about this the other day about how I went to very few high school dances,
Hmm.
but the, couple of them that I went to, the songs went back and forth between top 40 country and like top 40, hip hop and pop.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and like, it was, of course, it's the 90s. It was like the time of like music video dances. And so you'd have like a hip hop song and everybody knew the dance to that song. And
Yeah.
then you'd have a country song and everybody knew the line dance to that song. Like it was
Yeah.
a strange little
Line
blend.
dancing would be about as alien as trying to speak Jamaican where I come from. Okay, actually, speaking Jamaican was probably more common than line dancing where I come from.
And yet, country line dances, it's just the electric slide.
Yeah,
So
it's just, yeah, it's all derived from that. It's true.